Hey everybody, Alex Kirshner here to pick the last week of college football's regular season for Odds Checker. Last week was a good one for me, 10-5, almost better. Would have been 11-4 if not for a brutal beat for our Florida Gators against Tennessee. I'm not mad about it. I'm actually furious about it. So let's try to have another week like that, hopefully without one of the worst beats of the season. I make most of my picks on Sundays and Mondays and then do a little adding sometimes on Friday or Saturday. I like to talk through the rationale behind my picks so that whenever you're watching this video and whenever you put in your own picks, depending on where lines move, you can make the most informed decision for yourself. Obviously, this year we have a risk that any number of games we bet on might be canceled and declared no action. If so, remember your sportsbook should be refunding your money. Unfortunately, it seems like people haven't been having too many problems about that. So let's start this week, the last week of the regular season, with a game that is the game of the year every year. If you're into big rivalries in college football, I think this is the greatest rivalry in college football. The Army-Navy game, of course. I'm taking Army this year, -6 in this game. There's a tendency to think that anything can happen in Army-Navy, and it can. This is a game that both teams measure their seasons by, and they know each other very well. And really, whatever else you do, if you're Army or Navy, it is true. It kind of falls short to what you do against your rival. Uh, I want to strip out some of the emotion from this game, though, as much as we possibly can. And we can't do it entirely in Army Navy. If we just look at what these teams have done this year, Army is better than Navy, and it's not particularly close in terms of the quality of play that they have shown in this abbreviated pandemic season. Navy is outside the top 100 in both offensive and defensive SP plus. These teams know how to prepare for each other, so I don't think that Army is going to be taken by surprise by anything Navy does, and vice versa. But I wouldn't expect Navy to come out with a big bag of tricks that cuts into what appears to be a pretty significant quality gap between the teams this year. Navy's running game is not what you have come to expect. They do not have that passing complement that great triple option offenses often have, where you can hit a few big pass plays a game. We saw that at Navy over the last few years with Malcolm Perry, with Keenan Reynolds before him, but it just has not materialized for them this year. So as well coached as Navy is, I think they're going to lose this game, and I think they're going to lose by more than a touchdown. Obviously, you expect low scoring because both of these teams are going to run the hell out of the ball, and there won't be a lot of possessions. But I think Army should win this game by something in the 7-10 region, and I feel good about the Black Knights -6. Over in the SEC, Auburn and Mississippi State, two teams that are recently coming off games against their biggest rivals. I'm taking the over in this game at 47.5. Mississippi State's offense has come around a little bit since they were getting, well, basically stomped by everybody on their schedule except for LSU in the first half of this season. I think that Auburn, on the other hand, has shown a few signs on offense, a few signs, even in a loss against Texas A&M last week from Bo Nix, that maybe they're coming into form a little bit. Obviously, it's too late for this to be the season that they want, but it is not too late for us to get a total to hit on the over in this game. I think that Auburn's defense is a decent match for Mississippi State's offense, as in I think Mississippi State can move the ball against them. Auburn blitzes a lot. Mississippi State, we know, tends to do better against teams that do not just sit back and put a ton of guys into deep coverage. So I think that if Mississippi State can just get to the same 24 points that it's gotten to in each of its last three games against different types of defenses, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, and Georgia, then all we need is Auburn to win this game by any amount, and they're favored by 13 or so. So I feel very good about the over. I think this probably settles around 51. So with a total of 48 or less, I feel quite good about it. In the Big 12, Oklahoma and West Virginia and Morgantown, taking Oklahoma in this game, -11. If we look at Oklahoma, I mean, they're on a 6-game winning streak. They have won 5 in a row by 13 plus. That includes a rout of Oklahoma State, which beat West Virginia by a couple scores. The transitive property does not get you all that far in college football, doesn't get you that far any year in college football. But I think in this point, it is indicative that Oklahoma has settled some things down that were really, really causing problems for them early on in the season. Spencer Rattler is not throwing as many bad interceptions. And the defense, frankly, has rounded into form in a way that we don't really ever see with Oklahoma's defense. I think that people have missed that because they lost 2 games early on. to Kansas State and Iowa State, and so they haven't really been in playoff contention. But Alex Grinch has that defense playing very well, and West Virginia's offense is no great shakes at all. I think that as long as Oklahoma scores into the mid-30s in this game, which they should because they're Oklahoma and they do that almost every week, they should cover a spread even at like minus 12 and a half or better. So I feel very good about it at minus 11, and I like Oklahoma in this game. Louisiana Tech and TCU next on my list here in a rare non-conference game at this point in the season. I don't think Tech is going to have a very good time in this game, but I am nonetheless taking Louisiana Tech plus 21 and a half. I don't think Tech's going to do a lot against TCU's defense, but I think that Tech's defense is okay, and TCU's offense is not a horse that I particularly want to bet on. Been a little better since Max Duggan has entrenched himself again as the starting quarterback there, and they did have a decent second half, a good second half against Oklahoma State last week. But I think that Tech can score between 10 and 17 points. I don't think they're going to get shut out in this game. And if Tech scores, say, 17 points, that requires TCU to put up a pretty high number, to be into the very high 30s or low 40s in order to cover a spread this big. I don't think TCU is built to win games by that much. They have only won by that much against Kansas, and sorry Jayhawks, but Louisiana Tech is better than Kansas. So just given the way TCU is built, plus 21 and a half is a little too much, in my opinion, for them to be laying even against a Conference USA team. Over the Pac-12 for a moment, Utah's playing Colorado in Boulder this week. I have Utah plus 1 in this game. I want to say I am very impressed with Carl Durrell and with what Colorado has done going 4-0 in this abbreviated weird season. But let me tell you what I am not going to do. I am not going to disregard everything that you and I both know about Colorado and Utah and the different levels that those programs are at coming into this year based on a couple of weird games in this pandemic. I think that Utah has better players than Colorado. I think that Utah, until further notice, should probably be considered to be a better coach team than Colorado. With all due respect to Carl Durrell and staff, Kyle Whittingham and his have been doing this for a long time at a very high level. I just have not seen enough that makes it make sense to me why Colorado is getting even a point in this game. And I've actually seen some line movement here. So you could get get Utah at something like 1.5 or maybe even 2, which would obviously be better than plus 1 where I got it. But just haven't seen enough to not feel like I'm getting away with something by getting Utah and points in a game against Colorado. In the American for a moment, Houston, Memphis playing this weekend. I am on the under in this game at 63.5 points. The biggest thing Houston does well, right, is connect on these big passing plays. Clayton Tune, Marcus Stevenson, some of the weapons they have on offense. Stevenson has not played in a while. Houston has not played in a while. They're going to be about 3 weeks. I think actually even a little bit closer to a month, like 3.5 weeks between games by the time this one kicks off. I just think they're going to be sloppy. I think a lot of teams are going to be sloppy in general. There's a lot of reasons for teams to just not have things very well together at this late point in a pandemic season. Houston's year has not gone the way they wanted. They don't have a lot to play for. Memphis also is a different team than the one that we have come to know under Justin Fuente and Mike Norvell the last couple of years. Ryan Silverfield, their new coach, has kind of rebalanced the identity of this team. They are not all offense, no defense anymore. They play a little bit of D. I think their offense has taken some steps back, which obviously you don't want. But this is just not the team that it used to be that would scream over at you every single week. And I feel good about the under in this game. I don't think it would be surprising if it settled somewhere in the mid 50s. FAU and Southern Miss in Conference USA this week. I'm on Southern Miss plus 8 in this game, which I mean, I got to think. I had to think about it for a while because it's like, do I really want to bet on a team that is on its second interim coach and second or third quarterback of the year and that has had so much go wrong all season? And I thought about it, and I do, because FAU's offense is that bad. I mean, FAU has a very strong defense, but they just don't score. And 8 is too many for me to lay with FAU on the road against a team that has actually been a little squirrely lately. I think Southern Miss, they're only 2-7, but they've shown some prickliness, I guess I would say, in some of their games in the back half of the season. I think they wouldn't mind sending out their interim coach. They just hired Will Hall from Tulane as their head coach. Wouldn't mind sending out the interim with a plus game here and might come out and play pretty hard. So I do feel good about Southern Miss plus 8. Elsewhere in that conference, UAB and Rice, under 45.5 points for me in this game. Rice beat Marshall last week, 20-0, in one of the most shocking results of this college football season. But I think that was a mirage in some ways. Rice had 5 interceptions against a Marshall team that just does not do that. And even with those 5 picks, Rice only scored 20 points. I think it would be a big upset if they got back to 20 points in this game. UAB is fundamentally sound. They don't make a lot of mistakes. So I don't think UAB is going to spot Rice free points. I also don't think they're going to give many up. On the other hand, Rice's defense is legitimate. I mean, a shutout of Marshall is a serious achievement. Obviously, the turnovers are great. I think they're a fluke, but they're still great. I don't think UAB scores a ton, both because UAB's offense isn't great and they move very slowly against Mike Bloomgren's defense for the Owls. So the under feels to me like the smartest place to be in this game. I can't imagine being on the over for pretty much any reason. And I'd be okay with the under in this game, even if it was down at like 44. I don't think I would go below that because at that point, the number's just getting very, very small. One more Conference USA pick this week because we love Conference USA on this program. UTEP and North Texas. I am on North Texas -9.5. UTEP will have not played a football game in a whole month. They will have played just twice in the last 2 months, basically, by the time this game comes around. This game is itself a reschedule of one that was scheduled for much earlier in the year. The entire season right now for UTEP kind of duct taped and chicken wired together. They are playing a North Texas team that is not very good, but that will score because North Texas scores against almost everybody. I am skeptical that if North Texas scores into the 30s, which they can very much do in any given week, I'm skeptical that UTEP is going to have enough juice to cover 9.5 points. I would want to see UTEP getting somewhere in the double digits, maybe like 11 or 12, before I would feel comfortable with them covering this game at home. So I'm on the Mean Green -9.5. And excuse me, this game is in Denton, Texas, home of North Texas. UNLV and Hawaii, my last pick of the week. Often the last thing that a lot of people are watching. It might be a Hawaii game on Saturdays. UNLV +21 is my pick in this game, and I can't believe I'm betting on UNLV in 2020. They have not won a game. They are going to finish off an 0-6 debut season for Marcus Arroyo in this game. But I see them losing by 2 touchdowns or so, more than I see them losing by 3 touchdowns. Hawaii has a bad enough defense that it would not surprise me if UNLV scored somewhere into the 20s in this game. Despite all of the problems that UNLV has had on offense, I do think they can score some points here. Hawaii's defense just doesn't excite me really in any way. UNLV is 0-4-1 against the spread. So, I mean, it gives you pause, right? When you have a team that is not only bad on the field, but bad against the spread, bad covering games. I think that what has happened here, though, is that odds makers have maybe overreacted a little bit to the terrible ATS record for UNLV, and they've just set a really, really high number. Because if we look at Hawaii's body of work, I mean, they had a nice win the first week of the season against Fresno State, but they have just really been iffy. This is a team that's going to finish 500 this year, and that has not looked like anything like the offensive, how should I say this? Never a juggernaut, but like the offensive problem that they were with Cole McDonald at quarterback and Nick Rolovich at coach for the last several seasons. I think that the number being this big is a bit of an overreaction. And hey, I won money betting on Kansas +26 last week when Kansas hadn't covered a spread all year. It felt right. It felt like the number was just too big against an opponent, Texas Tech, that hasn't done anything to merit being almost a 4-touchdown favorite. Feels similarly here with a 3-touchdown spread for UNLV and Hawaii. And so I am running with the Rebels +21. Thanks for watching this video. This is a big week. Hopefully we can finish strong before we head into conference championships and bowl season and make a little money as we bet on the postseason slate this winter. Thanks again and have a great one.